The Old Town Library had always been a quiet refuge, the kind of place where dust floated lazily through warm beams of afternoon light, and the biggest disturbance you'd ever expect was a drop book or a printer jam. But over the past few years, similar small-town libraries across America have reported unusual disturbances, doors opening on their own, cold drafts with no source, and strange noises coming from storage areas, phenomena that librarians usually dismiss as old buildings settling, HVAC backflow, or simple imagination. Still, the night I stayed late at our town library, I realized why staff here always avoided the basement after sunset. It began with a soft click, the faint metallic snap of a latch releasing by itself, and the slow, aching creak of the basement door swinging open as if someone on the other side were gently pushing it. At first, I tried to explain it the same way online commenters do in similar cases, attributing it to uneven flooring, shifting humidity, or negative air pressure caused by the upstairs vents. But something about the timing felt intentional, as though the door waited until I was alone and the building had fallen completely silent. I walked toward it, telling myself libraries are full of odd noises, old wood swells, hinges expand, and drafts slip through cracks no one ever notices. Yet the closer I got, the colder the air felt, a sharp temperature drop. That reminded me of reports from librarians across states like Ohio and Pennsylvania, who described basement storage rooms that were always 10 to 15 degrees colder despite being sealed concrete spaces. I reached the doorway and looked down the stairwell, expecting darkness. But what unsettled me was the feeling that someone had been standing there seconds before, leaving behind a faint echo of presence you can't see but somehow sense in your chest. Over the next few nights, the pattern continued. The door stayed still all day, even during the evening hours when the building was bustling with after-school traffic. But once the last patron left, once the lights dimmed and the desk lamps glowed warm against the wooden circulation counter, the latch would click, soft but deliberate. According to several library maintenance forums I checked, if a door repeats the exact same behavior only during certain hours, it often means there's a mechanical or environmental trigger, temperature shifts, pressure pockets, or misaligned framing. Still, none of those explanations match what I experienced, because sometimes the door wouldn't just open, it would pause, hanging halfway, as if someone unseen were deciding whether to step through. One night, I recorded it on my phone, thinking proof might help the maintenance team. The video showed the door slowly swinging open, then stopping, and swinging again. But more disturbing was the sound my microphone picked up: whispers, faint and layered, like distant voices filtered through thick walls. Audio technicians often warn that smartphones can create artifacts that resemble voices when picking up wind, HVAC rumble, or fabric movement. And I wanted to believe that, yet the whispers formed soft, distinct syllables, too rhythmic, too human to dismiss as static. I mentioned it to the head librarian, an older woman who had worked here for nearly 30 years. She didn't laugh or look surprised. She simply said, "Don't go down there alone." Later, through local archives, I learned that many town libraries built before the 1940s included basements that served multiple purposes: storm shelters, meeting halls, or even temporary morgue space during harsh winters. Records from neighboring counties suggest some of those basements saw tragic events, including accidents, illnesses, or people taking refuge who never made it out. Whether our library's basement had such history wasn't fully documented, but there were gaps in the early records, missing pages and handwritten notes referencing restricted storage and lower-level incidents. Some historians argue these gaps were simply due to poor preservation or lost files, while others think older institutions sometimes erased uncomfortable history. I wasn't sure what to believe, but the more nights I worked, the more the basement door seemed to respond to my presence. It would remain fully shut until I walked past, and then the latch would release. The timing became impossible to dismiss. One particularly quiet evening, a storm rattling the windows, I heard footsteps coming from the basement, slow, uneven, and impossibly distant, like someone pacing deep below the concrete floor. Reports from other libraries include similar descriptions, though explanations vary. Some blame acoustics, others the echo of pipes cooling after a long day. I followed the sound to the top of the stairs but refused to go farther. I called out, expecting my voice to bounce back in the empty stairwell. But instead I heard a reply soft, breathy, almost my name. I froze, and for the first time, I felt genuine fear. The kind that tightens your throat and makes you acutely aware of your heartbeat. I stepped back, keeping my eyes on the darkness below, and the door began to close by itself, slowly, inch by inch, until the latch clicked shut. I locked it, though I didn't know if that would make any difference. The next morning, the librarian quietly told me the basement had once been used to store the belongings of families who fled a catastrophic house fire decades ago. Some said the grief soaked into those old walls. Others claimed the library was simply built over unstable ground that causes strange noises. Regardless of which interpretation is closer to the truth, something in that basement had become active again. To this day, I hear the door creak open on quiet nights, even when I'm not in the building, and whenever I walk past the library after sunset. I avoid looking toward the lower windows. Sometimes, without warning, a dim light flickers inside the basement, though there are no switches and no bulbs installed down there anymore. Whether it's memory, imagination, or something lingering in the forgotten quiet beneath our feet, the feeling remains the same. Some doors open because of drafts and old hinges, but others open because something on the other side wants to be noticed. And if you ever hear your name whispered from a place that should be empty, step back, breathe, and let the door close on its own. Some invitations aren't meant to be answered, especially after dark.